Hello everyone, welcome to DGI Podcast, a show where we talk about making impacts and growing our businesses together. I'm Lisa from GIZ DGI and also your host for today's podcast. And joining me in the studio today for the topic of mental resilience of an innovator is one of our leading creative minds and behavioral leaders, Micheal. Hello, Micheal.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. My name is Micheal McKay. I am the country director for 17 Triggers, and I'm also the co-founder of BB and Bongo, an eco-friendly and ethically made toy company.
Okay, thank you so much. So you are representing two roles today. So can you tell me a little bit more about 17 Trigger first, actually?
Sure. 17 Triggers is a social innovation lab, and we specialize in using human-centered design to change behaviors at the bottom of the economic pyramid. Mm-hmm. And basically what this means is helping people improve their lives through subtle behavior changes from exclusive breastfeeding to hand washing to reducing plastic, all of those things.
Okay, so the other one is BB Bongo?
BB and Bongo, yes.
BB and Bongos,
yes.
Okay. So what is that?
So it's a toy company that was actually my business partner originally founded the project here in Cambodia in 2009. And I only came on board during COVID to help sustain the business. And it basically helps Cambodian women have fair, flexible employment from home. Women in Cambodia have a lot of burdens. Mm-hmm. And this allows them to make toys from home on their own schedule and get paid fairly for their work.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much. So also I want to spotlight this a little bit because this is the last episode for DGI Podcast. The first season, we're not sure if we're doing another one. And normally the first to the fourth episode, we have our innovators from the DGIx program. But Micheal is a special one because he's the non-DGIx venture, but still quite active in the social impacts world. And because this episode, we want to talk a bit more about mental resilience and a lot of psychological behavior and stuff like that. And I think that Micheal is a great fit to share on it. And hopefully, like today, I can definitely learn more about psychology and also use it in my actual real world too.
I will do my best.
So before we start, actually, can you share with me a little bit more how you get started in your journey?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Canadian. Been in Cambodia for about 10 years. I did my undergrad in design, mm-hmm. and my career actually started in advertising. Okay. So I worked in commercial advertising in Canada for about 7 years. Mm-hmm. And what I loved about advertising, it's funny you should mention psychology, was I loved thinking about how people think. I loved trying to think about what was it that would motivate them to want something, and how could I communicate that through words or images. Eventually, I ran my own company for a few years, and then I got the opportunity to come to Cambodia. And it was interesting because my whole time working in advertising, the best projects to work on were not-for-profits. They were always fun. The organizations were always appreciative just to have something creative and something professional. And I remember thinking at a time, wouldn't it be great if most of the work we could do was that, mm-hmm. and instead of the corporate stuff that paid the bills? And 17 Triggers actually was that model in a lot of ways. A friend of mine initially worked at 17 Triggers and put me onto the company. And so unexpectedly, not planned, I ended up in Cambodia in 2015, mm-hmm. working for 17 Triggers initially as an art director and then as the creative director. And I worked there for about 5 years, and then resigned to do my MBA. Mm-hmm. And I was very interested in business. I'd been an entrepreneur before. I was very keen on that, wanted to learn more, wanted to move away from creative. And that's when I met Monica, my business partner in BB and Bongo, and worked in a different kind of social impact space. Mm-hmm. Manufacturing is quite different than the consulting work we do with 17 Triggers. And then just under 3 years ago, found my way back to 17 Triggers now as country director. So getting to merge both my creative and social passion for business together in kind of one space.
Okay, that's very nice. I think I really like how you touch on like the advertisement about thinking how people think, because when I look at like advertisements in here, it's like, oh, that's kind of the message that's trying to send me. And it's really nice to see how we can kind of turn like the for-profit kind of advertisement into something else that's a bit more on social impacts. And you also touch a bit on like how it inspires you to get into the social business. So is something, can you share a little bit more on how you see like the difference between your life in like the corporate world and like the social business world now?
Interesting question. So for me, I inherently believe that it's possible to do good for the world and make a profit. I don't think they have to be mutually exclusive. And so for me, I think the biggest difference is there's a few. There's a few biggest differences. When you are a social business, the lens that you look at through the world is different. You have an extra factor. It's not just about profit. It's not about efficiency always. Sometimes being socially driven means not being efficient. In the corporate world, I think you have competition is different. Social, you have competition, but it's you almost can't even compete with for-profit companies. So I can give you an example of something we're working on right now that sort of challenges this space in Cambodia specifically. So our team is currently working on a project to investigate sustainable food packaging with food vendors. So those wet food vendors who outside of markets, and they all use styrofoam, right? Because it's cheap and they have to make a profit, right? But it's not sustainable. And in a place like Cambodia, right, there's garbage everywhere. I mean, it's really important that we find sustainable options, right? But they're not readily available and they're not really that affordable, right? So how do we start to challenge mindsets around being profit-driven versus sustainably driven? And people need help to build models that will work for them, where they can live and survive and also do things that are good for people and planet. So, not sure if that totally answers your question.
No, it does. And also about sustainability, I mean, it has been a buzzword, I would say, going around like few decades now. And people tend to, I mean, like, because I also wanted to live my life sustainably, but sometimes it's not, very easy to manage. And I would imagine for people like who are owning small businesses, especially like vendors, it's not easy for them to do so. And so for you as the 17 Triggers team, do investigation, like research on them, and then what do you do with the results normally?
Oh, okay. That goes directly into the heart of what we do. So what we do really is behavior change. And so it's trying to understand, like, what are the behavioral barriers in the way of somebody changing their behavior? So in the example of food vendors, like, what are the behavioral barriers that will prevent them to adopting a more sustainable option? Now, one could be a knowledge problem. Like, do they just not know that there are other options available? And do they care? I guess. So if you don't know there are other options, then how could you possibly adopt that, right? So often knowledge isn't the problem. We're in a world full of data. There's enough knowledge out there. So then it comes to motivation. Like, do you want to, right? Do you want to change because you intrinsically feel value for the world? You care about the planet. You care about doing good. Or are you more motivated by the fact that, hey, I have bills to pay and unfortunately, sorry, planet. I mean, I just need to make enough money to send my kids to school this month. And so where's my motivation intrinsically? And then there's the environment space, right? It's like, maybe I actually really want sustainable packaging and maybe I'm willing to buy it and pay extra for it, but it's not available in Cambodia, right? So when we understand what the barriers are, right, then we can work to solve them. If it's about, hey, I want this, but it's not available, it's like, well, how do we work with suppliers and distributors to make options available or help discover new options that could work for them? If it's a motivation problem, then there are different strategies to sort of tackle that as well. So,
okay, yeah. And normally when we talk about social business like this, the people who I've talked to, it says it's always difficult to balance between, profit and between like the impacts that we make. So for you, do you see like the different challenges that the social business, especially you owning one yourself, like, what kind of challenges do you foresee actually?
Yeah, so I think we probably run into this more with BB and Bongo, the toy company, because it's manufacturing. And when you have manufacturing, you have a supply chain. You have your raw materials, where are they coming from, all the way through to your distribution to customers, and versus 17 Triggers, which is more consulting based. So when it comes to the toy company, where we run into the profit versus social impact are a couple of places. One is labor. So in places like Cambodia and Southeast Asia and countries like that, there are not always social protection laws in place for people. So if you're a social business, then you're imposing those yourself. That means you're deliberately deciding to pay people fairly, to give them benefits, even if the state says doesn't matter, or you can operate informally, or you can pay these people less than minimum wage and nobody's going to stop you, right? Which some people do. Some people just give whatever somebody's going to take versus it being a living wage. So labor is something you have to make a deliberate effort for if you're going to be a socially driven business. And then it's supplies, it's materials. For our toys, we use yarn, we use fillings, just like stuffing for the toys. And so we have to decide, are we going to pay more for yarn that's ethically made? We were trying to source some organic cotton a couple of years ago. We found some in China, or so we thought, until we found out the devastating effects of the weaver population that was happening in the north in these cotton fields. And so even though this product was great, it was organic, it was everything we wanted in this yarn, it was being produced by people who were being abused. And so we couldn't in good conscience, even though it would have changed how we could have marketed our products to be completely organic. And so I think when you have that lens, you can't just go to whatever's going to be the cheapest, whatever's going to be the most efficient. Is you have a different variable you always have to consider. And not that for-profit businesses don't. There's definitely businesses that have, some of this in their ethos, but it's different if you are a socially driven business and it's the very fabric of what you do.
Okay, thank you. So I think everyone kind of get a feel of what you do in your roles, the two roles now. So a little bit into the topic of mental resilience of an innovators. So I know that it's a lot of things you have to manage day-to-day basis. How would you define the word resilience here, though?
When you sent the questions, and resilience as a leader, I thought a lot about this, because I think resilience as an individual is different than the resilience required as a leader. So as an individual, I think we all have our own battles. We all have our own things that we deal with, that we struggle with, and resilience is about being beaten down and getting back up quickly as possible, and just keep going on whatever it is your journey and your goals are, right? And you can take the time you need sometimes to suffer through the pain that you need to rebuild yourself. So resilience as an individual is very, individual. When you are a leader, resilience as a leader, I am learning, is very different, because you have people who rely on you. And so your resilience isn't just for you anymore. It's also for the team. It means that you have to be ready to absorb blows for them, to protect them from things if you can. And so it's an extra layer, I think, as a leader that you have to be prepared for, probably similar to a family, right? Where if you're the parent or you're a leader in that family, right, you have to protect your family. And so to build your resilience and to keep it up is when you're being beaten down, is I think you have to make sure you're taking care of yourself. As they say on airplanes, you got to put your own mask on first. And I know it sounds cliche now, but I think it's still hard for people to stop and say, I have to stop and take care of myself. I have to make sure I'm eating well. I'm keeping my fitness up, or I'm getting enough sleep, because if I'm not okay, I'm not going to be okay for them. And that's what they need in a leader. That's why you're the leader, is because they need you to be able to guide them through their resilience journeys as well. So I think they're very different. Yeah.
Okay. Based on what you said, I think a leader in your own life or a team, you have to really start taking care of yourself a lot, because some people, they are just so worried about the business and everything that they just let everything else kind of let go of myself. I'm not going to do anything to help me. I'm just focusing on the business, but it's really not a very good strategy to do.
It's not sustainable.
Yes. So you first, and then you will, people around you will able to feel helpful by you taking care of yourself too. Okay.
Yeah. And your team will tell you if you're not okay. I definitely, this past year has been a challenging one for us in a lot of ways. And, after a few months of hard stuff going on, some of the team definitely noticed, and they asked, are you okay? And fortunately I was able to take a break in the summertime, but I mean, if you're not okay, people will start to notice.
Yeah. I think it's kind of similar to like the last episode we did a little bit about how you take care of yourself and taking care of your team and not just kind of push through like a very, very difficult kind of situation. So it's okay to take it a little bit more easy. I feel like people tend to be very hard on themselves when they are leading a big team like this. Okay.
It can be, yeah.
Yeah. So now a little bit more onto like a project-based kind of things. So how do you maintain your own confidence and focus when like an idea or project, it doesn't just go where you want it to be? You know?
I mean, when you're in the innovation space, I think you get very good at being comfortable with failure because almost nothing goes how you plan it to. So I think confidence isn't necessarily the problem. When things don't go as we planned, it's not good or bad. It's information. It's like, okay, well, we expected this to happen and this didn't happen or that happened instead. Now, it certainly depends on the risks that are involved at the time and how risky it was that it didn't go as planned. But more often than not, most of us are not working in a space where it's a life or death situation. Okay. Right? If things didn't go the way we planned, nobody died, nobody lost their job. So I think in that space, it's you have information, you know what not to do, and okay, we got to try something different. So for me, and I think for our team, like that space of like confidence, if it doesn't go right, we rapid prototype things. So we're failing at small levels first. So if a big failure happens, that's more of a unexpected. That doesn't happen very often because we failed a lot before we got to the big stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So I know that like as a leader, there's a lot of decisions that you have to make, right? And I'm pretty sure there are some decisions that you have made in the past that might not be the correct one or like the best one.
Yeah.
So is there ever been a time that you got hit very badly by a decision that you made and it was like, oh my goodness, that was such a bad one and I really like kind of screwed it up or something like that?
I mean, I've definitely made the wrong hires at times. And I've definitely taken too long to make a decision. I think if that was sort of a lesson learned as a manager, I think probably for most new managers and growing managers is, it's not so much did you make the right decision, it's like did you make a decision? Right? Taking too long to make a decision is actually usually that's the worst thing that can happen, right? You're better off to make a decision, make the wrong one and course correct quickly than you are to wait too long. I've definitely waited too long to make decisions and that outcomes of that have been far worse. It hurt people more in the long run because it either gave them false hope about how a situation might turn out, or it caused other unintended consequences, either financially or human resources related. So that would be, that's definitely something that I've learned. And I think maybe it's just experience. You get better at making decisions quicker because you're less worried about, am I going to make the wrong decision? Because it's not about making the wrong decision. You just have to make a decision sometimes. Okay.
Is there any like kind of tips you can share? Have you improved your decision-making skill yet?
Yes, I've gotten much better actually. So we actually had a pretty rough year this last year. If I can go into this a bit.
Sure.
So we work with a lot of NGOs at 17 Triggers, and USAID, imploded this year. And we had one project that was directly affected that accounted for probably about 10% of our revenue for the year. And it also, it had a cascading effect through the industry. So all of the clients that we also normally work with were also greatly affected. And so this was a very tough time for the company. And we had to make some hard decisions throughout the year. And as I said, I wasn't good at all of them. Our management team, we were not good at making all of them at the right time. But we've come through and we're reorganizing things and we're re-strategizing. And to your question about decision making, now I'm very clear on how to make a decision. There's two criteria. One, does it move our mission forward? Two, can we afford it? If it doesn't meet those criteria, it's a no. Right? Or it's a not right now. Like maybe it does meet one criteria. This absolutely would move our mission forward. But it's too expensive for us to invest in right now or to take that time for. So we can put it on the shelf for later. So So I think if you are a leader, I think getting clear on what criteria are the most important at any given time makes decisions a lot easier.
Okay. So most of the time we need to have a lot of information, right, to make a decision on something, hopefully. But when there is like a time that you are not like knowledgeable on a certain subject, how do you kind of push yourself to make decisions or, you know, kind of lead your team on something you're not very sure about?
That's a good question. I think it depends on how urgently the decision has to be made. If I have to make a decision right now, like I said, it's better to make a decision than no decision. So you have to rely on your experience and the information that you do have. We almost never have all the information that we would like to have. So based on this, based on past experience, based on what my team is telling me they would recommend or what they feel comfortable doing, this is what we're going to do. We made a decision yesterday about whether we were going to absorb a cost for a project because we thought if we did that, the team would have a better outcome. The team would be more comfortable in that space. And in the end, it would be more value for the client. So, you know, it was a small cost and we said, let's do it, right? We took 10 minutes to talk about it and then it was it. For bigger things, I have mentors. I absolutely seek advice from people who have done this more than I have. I'm still kind of a rookie manager in some ways. I mean, I've been in this position with 17 Triggers for just about 3 years. I've managed my own company before, but that's different than managing a team like this. So I definitely don't know everything. I read a lot of books. I listen to podcasts. I talk to people who have other ideas than I do. And yeah, I definitely seek guidance when I need help making decisions.
Yeah, I think mentorship is it's something that I learned throughout the program is that the innovators, they value the mentorship a lot because of, you know, like you as a one person, you cannot know everything under the planet. And sometimes you face a lot of difficult times that might be not really relating to other people who might do like a bit of different things than you. So mentorship is very helpful for them. And I'm glad to hear that you yourself also finding it very helpful. Yeah. And also I heard a lot of you know, connecting with the teams. And I think you have like a very kind of close-knit relationship with your team, would you say?
We do. I'd like to think so. Yeah. I hope they think so.
So is there like a personal like philosophies or mindset that keeps you kind of grounded and connect with the team a bit more?
So for me, I think probably since I even started my own business before, people are the most important thing in a company. I mean, until AI and robots take over, I mean, if you don't have people, you don't have a business. And I love watching people do what they do well, and to be able to experience the full potential of what they're capable of doing and to have that growth. And so for me, I really value the relationships I have with people. We have a rigorous hiring process. So it starts with making sure you hire the right people. We hire for fit. We hire for people who are aligned with our values. We hire people we would not mind spending 18 hours in an airport with because sometimes we've gotten stuck. So it's important to make sure you have the right team first, and then cultivating relationships. They don't happen by themselves. Our team is small enough that I'm able to have one-on-ones reasonably regularly with most of the staff. Not all. I'm definitely not as regular with one-on-ones as with some people as I am with others. And I'm a very open person. So I think when you are an open person, you invite other people to be open. So I'm okay to share certain levels of personal details if it's appropriate. I'm okay to open that space and let people feel like it's okay to talk if they want to. They don't have to. So I think, like just making sure that people know I put them first or try to, and trying to make a deliberate effort to check in and see how they're doing. A personal, professional level. They're people. They're not just staff. They're people, you know. So. Yeah.
So I would say that you as like a leader, you have to focus a lot on the business, but also focusing on like, you know, making sure the people that you are working with also feel like they are contributing a lot of great things to the company. And you also mentioned like there were some difficult times back then, like a few years back. Can you share a bit more on how you were able to handle the situation and kind of bounce back to where you are today?
Sure. Well, it's only this year, actually, earlier this year. So, I mean, first of all, I'll say there's always a gap between the leader that you are and the leader you want to be. Even if you think you're doing a good job, you always know you could do more. So I do recognize that even when I've tried, I know I've probably failed the team at different times. This year, with the USAID thing, we had to make some choices about letting people go or not continuing contracts. And we tried to be as transparent as possible, as early as possible. We didn't want to get anybody panicked for no reason, but we also didn't want to be in any way, misleading about where the situation was going. And I think it's important that if you don't know, you tell them you don't know. I said, I don't know. This is what we know today. Things may change next week. We can update you on that. And so we had regular conversations as a company, as a group. But I did try often to check in with people, especially if I knew some people were having maybe harder times, or they potentially could have harder times, to ensure they knew that the door was open if they needed to talk. And also to let people know that, despite whatever financial situation we might be in, if they had needs, if they were challenged in some way, to come and talk to us. We will do our best to help. We can't make maybe all the promises yet, but really opening that door for communication and letting them know that we are here to help. We're in this together. And that was what I really tried to do. I'll have to check in with the team. Let me know if it was successful. We're in this together, right? So we'll figure this out, and to maintain that sense of optimism and positivity going forward. That was definitely key to navigating through that.
Yeah. I always love it when I talk to people who are leading a social business or in working there. They always feel a sense of community when they go to work. It's not just like, okay, I'm going to work, get my work done, go back home. Not really that at all, but just a sense that people actually care where you're doing in your life and how are you doing. So it's a very nice thing to hear. And I think a lot of people who work with you really appreciates that. So
I hope so. I do care. I genuinely care about our team as people. I'm a person. I have a life outside of my job and the work that I do. I love my job. I love my work, but I go through my own things. And I think if you are in touch with that in yourself, it's easy to see that in other people that, they show up every day, but they have a life outside of this. Again, I don't know if I'm always as good as I'd like to be, but I genuinely care about how they're doing.
Okay. So we do touch a lot on you as a leader, creating a space where people can feel comfortable, but also for people who are working as a team, maybe from the perspective of people who are working with you, what kind of people that you think would make a good team together, make the environments more welcoming. So maybe example, if we were to work together, how can I, as a person or as a colleague, make the team feel better or goes well?
Okay. We have some core values at our company, which are critical to how we think about things. Some that I'd like to realize, but some things at the core of what we do are empathy. So we work with people who are highly empathetic. That's required in the work that we do, and it's required in each other to notice each other, right? And the team talks to each other. They notice if, hey, I think you're pushing it a lot this week. I think you need a break. So empathy is a key part. One of our values is always ask, how might we? That's one of my favorite ones, because it means that there's no real problems. There's only potential solutions. So when we are in a challenging moment, right, it's easy to say that won't work or this sucks. And, when you flip that around and you just say, how might we? Right? Even if it seems like an impossible situation, how might we? Suddenly the conversation can change and you can move from negativity to positivity. So I think those are key factors. Another value that we really appreciate is something called pass the microphone. It doesn't always translate well when we talk about it in Khmer, but basically what it means is making sure that everyone has a voice. Some people are more extroverted. Some people more introverted. Some people don't mind speaking in public. Other people scares the hell out of them. So when we when the team looks to each other to make sure that every voice in the room has a say, right? And gives them that space to speak up, and it's not always about me. I think that starts to cultivate that space where people feel comfortable being open. They feel comfortable sharing ideas with each other, and they work really well together. Our teams work very, very closely together, so you almost kind of don't have a choice but to. And then maybe the last thing I'll say on that is something I've really tried to encourage with the group is to resolve conflict amongst yourselves. So it doesn't happen a lot, but sometimes, you just have a conflict with your coworker, or you're at odds with how you want to approach something. And as little as possible, I don't want to get involved. I mean, relationship management is something we all have to do, and I will absolutely step in if it's necessary, but it takes courage to have hard conversations, and you also build better relationships. So I've really encouraged, especially if it's junior to senior staff or different cultures, to make sure that you're going to I want you to go and go have coffee with them, go for a walk with them, tell them how you're feeling, tell them what's on your mind. And always, I've not heard yet that things don't resolve and things don't get better.
Okay, that's good. You mentioned that maybe like 70 Triggers is like a more culturally diverse workplace, right? So, I mean, I really like having different cultures working together, but there's also some kind of challenges as well, maybe in the way that we would normally do in our like day-to-day life. It's a bit different, and how we approach things is a bit different. So for you specifically, like, is there any challenges that you have working with like a culturally diverse groups, and how are you doing so far?
So, I mean, over the years, 17 Triggers has been a mix of, Cambodian staff and international staff. But since I've come into this role, I really strive to hire for Cambodian staff. I mean, we're in Cambodia. A lot of the project work we do is in Cambodia. I think it's important that Cambodians are solving Cambodian problems, right? They know it best. One thing else, so our teams actually I don't think they struggle that much with any cultural diversity, but there are moments when we sometimes work with consultants who are, Vietnamese or European, and sometimes there are just work styles. One of the first work styles that I ran into when I first started at 17 Triggers was lunchtime. So me and there was one other counterpart who was American, and then we were working with Cambodians, and we had one interview left for the day, but it was lunchtime. It was 12 o'clock. And my American friend, our coworker, we said, let's just do this last interview, and then we'll have a late lunch, and then we'll be done for the day. And the Cambodian team was not having it. Like, no, it is lunchtime, and we are having lunch. We will do this after lunch. And at the time, it was quite frustrating. But I've really come to appreciate that line. Because the Western world does not respect those types of things. And in Cambodia, you can count on it. When it is 12 o'clock, it is lunchtime. It's a workshop. It's lunchtime. It doesn't matter. And I really value it now. So that's been an advantage. From a leadership point of view, I would actually say the challenge I've had being in this role from the cultural point is there's a different expectation of hierarchy in Cambodia. Right. There's a very established sense of hierarchy. When you become the big boss, right, people expect you to be a certain thing. There's an automatically a differentiation.
A distance?
Yeah, that's created not in my mind, because that's not how I feel about it. I mean, I sit with my staff. We have an open concept. I don't have my own office. Like, for me, we're all one big team. But for them, like, there's definitely moments when I can see that. It's like, okay, I'm not going to go to the same lunches. I mean, I go to some lunches, but I'm the boss, right? So there's a bit of that sort of isolation that has been an adjustment from when I used to be a part of the technical team. So we're finding that balance. I mean, they don't treat me like, this big boss, but there are moments where that happens and where it's very evident that there's a cultural thing there, and there's an expectation sometimes that I live that role a little bit, right? So, but I think from the team itself, I don't think we have probably as much challenge with cultural diversity. I don't think. They can tell me later.
I think most of like the people in like the leading positions, sometimes they do feel the distance between the team, like whether it's cultural differences or not. Is this something that you feel like you have closed the gap a little bit for you personally? And
I'd like to think that I've tried to. I mean, yes, I think if I haven't done everything well as a manager, but I do think that how I've created relationships with people has been okay. We did have to let some people go this year, and some contracts we weren't able to renew. And with all of those people who left, we left on good terms. We left with them expressing gratitude to me for how we've worked together, and that we would work together again if we could. So, and even within our team now, like I have one-on-ones when I can with most of the team, and I have always tried to make a point to say, I will make time for you. My schedule is always busy. It will always be busy. I'm a busy guy. I like being busy. But if you need me to look at something, if you need to talk, I will make time for you. I just let me know. Book something in the calendar, come see me, send me a message. I will make time for you. So it's really important to me that they feel that they know that. So yes, I'd like to think that I've closed that gap a little bit.
Yeah, that's good, because I think this is like an advice for people who are leading and wanted to, feel a bit closer to the team, is just to be opened and making your time for them.
Yeah, and maybe it's actually something, maybe just on that, is relationships are two ways. And if you want a closer relationship with your team, you can't always just wait for them to initiate, right? You can at any time schedule a walk, a check-in, a meeting, a coffee, to just say, hey, how are you doing? I could probably do more of that even. But if that's something that you want as a leader, then take the step, right? You want that, so initiate it, start it. It's a relationship. It takes work.
Okay. So I really like how open the conversations can be, but sometimes there's also like your role as a leader. Sometimes you don't essentially share everything, right? So how do you balance between like being open and also setting your own boundaries?
Well, let's take it from a business point of view.
Yes.
So I do think transparency is very important. I do think it's important that if people want to know certain information, that they have that available to them. But of course, that being said, there are times when it's not always appropriate to share everything or to share everything in a particular time. When you're part of the management team, and especially when it comes to finances or maybe HR issues, right, they can be quite sensitive. And if you don't understand the whole picture, if you don't know all the pieces, if you don't know the history, then to just hear one slice of information, could be terrifying. It could be, or misleading, right? So I think it's the job of a good leader to know when it's appropriate to share and how much. Because, again, it's like, what is it you're trying to achieve by sharing that information? Are you just wanting to reassure staff that things are okay? Are you trying to tell them about the strategy of the business? So what is the goal? And if the goal is to be, you could be fully transparent, and now you've created panic that there wasn't necessarily needing to be there, right? Versus sharing them an appropriate amount of information and saying, well, we'll give you more as needed. So I think sometimes you don't know a boundary until you've crossed it. I don't know that we've done too much of that, but I think the other balance on it is when you do set that boundary, it's also important to me that boundary doesn't feel nefarious. So that if any of my staff was to suddenly know what was that conversation about, what were those finances, they're not going to think that we lied to them, right? I think that's a very important factor when it comes to transparency and openness and boundaries. That boundaries doesn't mean we're lying or that we're hiding something. It means we're taking appropriate steps to share what makes sense right now and to keep you focused on what you need to do. You don't need to worry about this part. This is what our job is to do. I need you to go and do great things in communities right now. So, but that's the biggest thing. If people turned on the lights and saw behind the scenes, I don't want to ever feel like they were betrayed or they felt like they were lied to. So I think that to me is the biggest difference between boundaries and openness. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing about your leadership roles and kind of just being very open on how you manage your staff, I would say. No?
Thank you. I'm trying my best. I'm every day learning something new.
Okay. So now I want to touch on something a little bit like kind of zoom out a little bit. Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that businesses and everything else was kind of stopped for a while because USAID was closed. And there's a lot of social businesses and also NGOs that were affected by it. And I mentioned our conversation before this is that this might be a chance that we're focusing a bit more on social businesses in Cambodia to make like the impact directly. Can you actually share your perspective on that a little bit more on how they are able to do that?
Sure. Now, I will caveat that this is my personal opinion and not necessarily reflective of all of 17 Trigger staff. So because I come from corporate commercial background, I love business. I love the business in general is very exciting for me. And social business to me it feels like the ideal, right? If you can do good for the world and make a profit. And so, given that, there's a lot of good things that development does. And before coming to Cambodia, I'd never worked in development. I'd never been exposed to that. And I think I had a bit of rose-colored glasses about what development does and could do. And it's as flawed as any industry is. It does some great things and it does some not so great things. It can be effective and it can be very ineffective. And having worked at 17 Triggers for a long time, one of the challenges was seeing projects that were starting to make an impact, and then funding stopped, and the project stopped, or the continuation was not there, or it was never intended to continue. It was always like, this is a pilot, we're testing something out, and who knows what will happen after that. And that's not how businesses work. When you are an entrepreneur, whether it's a social or not, right? The good ones become entrepreneurs because they find a problem that they are so passionate about, a problem that frustrates them so much that it is everything in them that they have to solve it, right? And they don't see a solution that works for the world, and they say, I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna solve this problem. Like my business partner did when she started making toys with Cambodian women. She said, these women don't have jobs, right? They don't have access to education, right? They get these handouts from NGOs that they don't even necessarily need. Right? All they need is money. How can I help them make money? She didn't want to start a business. She just wanted these women to be able to make money from home while they had to take care of the kids and do all these other things, right? And that passion is still alive today. That is still the driving factor of why she does what she does and why we do what we do. And so now the thing about social business, when people start social businesses, is they often start with good intentions, right? But good intentions don't always make good business. And so, but when you can marry the two, right? What I love about the marriage of good social business is the market tells you what's working, right? Businesses thrive and survive and grow because they meet the demands of the market. They meet what customers need, right? And want, and they continue to do that through either great products, great services, great experiences, right? Businesses are great at that, and it's clear and tangible with profit, right? Profit becomes that metric that says, yes, we're doing this right. Customer feedback becomes, your star ratings, right? Yes, we love this product, right? I recommend to my friend. Whereas social businesses don't have, or social businesses start to have that same accountability, right? When you are thinking about it as a market and say, I'm not thinking about giving poor people latrines. I'm thinking about creating a great product for rural households to have an amazing washroom experience, right? Treating them like customers and letting them act like customers. And then the market tells you what's working. And now you have a social business because you have good intentions, you have a socially driven cause, and you have market forces telling you what's working well and how to adapt and grow. So that's my personal take. You can tell I get very passionate about it, but I do think social business has a way of, especially in places Cambodia, we have a very young population, and I think the population here is seeing the potential in Cambodia to be better than they are. And so it is establishing startups. It's thinking about green and sustainability and how can we become better. And if we just wait around for development funding to be the answer, we could wait forever, right? So when we can marry social and business, I think you have a recipe for a wonderful world.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because I think people are passionate about a certain kind of things, but it's just that they feel like there's a lot of barriers they have to go through, or like they don't have enough connections or people to kind of guide them along the way. So is there any kind of advice you would kind of give to them if like they have a good idea, but they don't know where to start?
If you have a social idea, if you want to change your world and you think you want to do a social business, first ask yourself, do I want to be an entrepreneur? Right? Because you're an entrepreneur first, right? And if you are not prepared for what it means to be an entrepreneur, don't do it. Go volunteer in your community. Go find somebody who is doing something in the space that you care about. Go find other ways to give back to your community, because being an entrepreneur is not for everyone, right? Being an entrepreneur is learning constantly, failing constantly. It's a nonstop job. It's a relentless pursuit. And if you're not prepared to learn the basics of accounting, of finance, of marketing, and you're not willing to go at it every day, full force for years before you see results, I think you really have to be. I'm definitely not like, go start a business. I'm more likely to discourage you unless for sure you've really thought about what does it mean to be an entrepreneur. Because if you're ready, if you're sure, like, I love the idea of being an entrepreneur, that really is exciting for me, and you happen to have an idea that could be great for improving the lives of people or improving your community, then you should start it. And you should start cheap, and you should test your idea early. Don't get an office space. Don't start your website. Just start prototyping, even on a piece of paper. Just start to ask people, what is this idea? What do you think of it? Try to figure out what's wrong with it. Try to get some feedback, and then talk to other social entrepreneurs, other entrepreneurs in general, and saying, what's the next step? How can I do this? And then maybe lastly, I would say, don't do it alone. If you can help it. Doing it alone is hard. Every solopreneur that you know that's a single founder will tell you it is very hard. If you can find a business partner, even just one other person who can be as passionate about your idea as you are, that would be 100% the way to go, because it will get hard, and it will be very helpful to have somebody beside you to pull you through and say, let's keep going. So that would be my thoughts on that.
Yeah. I think it might be too late to ask this, but to you, how do you find entrepreneurs?
Entrepreneurs, people who start businesses, people. That's an outcome. I think entrepreneurs are a certain type of person, whether or not they've run a business yet or not. I think my younger sister is an entrepreneur who's never started a business yet. I think these type of people are people who have a hard time in real jobs, like 9-to-5 jobs. Structure is hard for them. Doing things other people's ways sometimes is hard. And not because they're not disciplined. It's because they think differently, right? Or they're thinking 3 or 4 or 10 steps ahead sometimes. One entrepreneur friend of mine I know, she started businesses, and she even now, I think 10 steps ahead of where like life is at. And so it can be hard to convince people of your ideas. But entrepreneurs are like that. They they think differently. I don't know if that's
but answer. I mean, like, that's a good thing to understand, because people who have the ideas and they say, oh, am I like the right person to be the entrepreneurs? They kind of get like a glimpse of what it's like.
Yeah. So you won't know until sometimes you try. Sometimes you think you are, and then you step onto it and you're like, oh no, nope. I'd be happy to work for somebody else or to be a partner with somebody else. But for people who, when it's your calling, I think you find your way to it.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much, Micheal. I think we're running out of time.
Oh, okay.
But I think thank you so much for sharing today, and thank you for being open and like giving us a glimpse into how it's like to be leaders in a creative world, and also trying to take care of your own employees very well. I think my last question for you would just be like an advice for people who wanted to be a better leader, or they wanted to break into the entrepreneur's world, or they wanted to do like contribute to the society a little bit more, like through social business or anything. A big question, I know, but is there anything that you would like to share that you haven't shared yet?
Yes, I would say go for it. I would for me personally, I would rather regret something I did than something I didn't do. And because that feeling of kicking yourself when you're like, oh, I wish I would have done this, right? That's a much worse feeling than trying something and it failing spectacularly. At least you'll have a good story. And you'll be like, remember that time I tried to start a peanut butter business and it didn't work? So if you feel like you have it in you, I think go for it. Just try it, fail. You'll learn something from it. And you won't have that feeling of like, oh, I wish I would have, because nobody wants that, right? Just try it. You'll fail, try to make it a cheap, fast fail. You'll learn and you'll grow. And maybe the other point on that is that because action creates clarity, right? You can debate about something and wonder if you should do something and is this right? Is this wrong? And it's not until you actually take a step where something becomes like, oh no, this is the wrong path. Or like, okay, this step felt good. Let's take another step, right? So if you are feeling unsure, take a step. Take one step in that direction. And you'll know pretty quickly when the path is like, nope, this is not for me. Or yeah, no, this is feeling good. Well, I can take another step and I can take another step. So just go for it. We need courageous people in this world to do courageous things. And so, yeah, go for it.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you for tuning in to DGI Podcast. Sadly, this is our last episode, but I hope that you get to learn a lot more things from the pilot episode until now. And if there's any more from us, we will see you next time. So thank you so much for watching DGI Podcast, and I will see you next time. Bye. Thank you.